Hello everybody, in today's New World video, we are going to be going over the best life staff builds to run for PvP in Season 3. Now, if you're coming to this video as an experienced player, most of these builds are going to be very familiar to you. However, if you are new to the game, welcome to my channel and welcome to New Worlds. There is a lot of builds that you can run with the life staff and many different playstyles that you can choose from. We have hybrid healers, we have AOE healers, we have full single target healers, and any of these healer specs will be a playstyle for you. Now, to kick things off, we are going to be talking about the full AOE Healer build first. This build is going to be for players who want to have a relaxing time tossing all of their AOE heals out to the army or the group that they are playing with. The massive heals over time is going to keep everybody up as long as they are playing near your green circles. The main three abilities with this build is going to be Sacred Ground, Orb of Protection, and Beacon. So let's quickly talk about some of the passives here and how you should be playing this build. Sacred Ground is going to heal targets for 50% more as long as they are standing in Sacred Ground. You want to pair this with Orb of Protection, Beacon, because the healing from Beacon and Orb of Protection are also going to be increased by 50%. Now, with Sacred Ground, this ability you want to be placing in the biggest, most valuable spot possible so it gets the max amount of impact. And as soon as your Sacred Ground is in the biggest clump possible, that is when you are going to follow up with your Beacon. Orb of Protection should be used before you place your Sacred Ground because of the perk here. Let me find my life staff. We have the Bending Protection perk on the bottom of this life staff. This is going to increase our outgoing healing power by 45% as long as Orb of Protection heals an ally below 50% health. So the idea of this build is going to be tossing out your Orb of Protection first and then casting your Beacon or Sacred so they have the 45% extra healing. All of these abilities have very high cooldowns. So Sacred Ground has a 16-second cooldown, Orb of Protection has a 8-second cooldown, and Beacon has a 27.8-second cooldown. This is with max refreshing. The playstyle revolves around a lot of light attacking. Let me explain why. So every time we light attack through an ally, they are going to be healed for 16% weapon damage. And if that light attack also passes through an ally and hits an enemy, we are also going to get 5% ability cooldown reduction per light attack hit. So the idea is to line up your auto attacks through your allies to hopefully hit an enemy on the other side. If you cannot do that, then you want to prioritize Revitalize at all costs because it is going to increase your uptime with Orb of Protection, Sacred, and Beacon. So some other valuable passives here to keep in mind is Intensify. When you hit a heavy attack, you are going to be getting a 10% healing increase with that heavy attack, and this stacks up to 3 times for a total of 30% outgoing healing effectiveness. Now, one thing to note is that if you swap weapons with Intensify up, you are going to lose all 3 stacks. So your goal is to be staying in your life staff as much as possible with as much Intensify stacks as well. We also have the Protector Strength perk here. If you have a buff, all outgoing healing is increased by 20%. You will have this at all times because the Sacred Protection perk on the bottom left of the healing tree counts as a buff. The other healing buff that you get on the protector side of the tree is going to be Bend Light. After a dodge, your outgoing healing is 20% more effective for 5 seconds. So I just found someone out here questing real quick. I'm going to show you guys the quick combo that you want to do when you are AoE healing. So first of all, you're going to dodge for the healing bonus. You're going to auto attack into Orb of Protection, into auto attack Beacon, into a Sacred. Hopefully at this time, all of your auto attacks have gone through your allies for the 16% healing bonus. Some general tips for this build is going to be make sure you try to keep as much Intensify stacks as possible. Try not to put yourself in vulnerable positions and make sure that you do not swap between weapons if not needed. For the Divine Embrace builds here, unfortunately, we will only be able to change about 4 talents with any of the builds here. We need to always have Divine's Embrace. We need to always have Sacred Ground, and these perks are just mandatory, okay? So we can take these 14 perks here. We are left up to decide what else we want to take. So we have 3 options to run with Divine's Embrace and Sacred Ground. I only say 3 even though there's 4 ability options is because Orb of Protection is not that valuable to run if you are running Divine's Embrace. The other healing abilities just offer so much more value compared to Orb of Protection that this is why it's only used for AoE. Since we have only 5 points available for the rest of the abilities, let's talk about which points that we want to take. So depending on your playstyle, you might want to take Rebounds. This is the 4th perk in the Divine's Embrace ability perk tree, and this perk will kind of chain the heal from the Shared Struggle perk to another ally. If you heal a target below 50% health with Divine's Embrace, Shared Struggle is going to chain the heal to another ally, and the Rebound perk is going to chain the Shared Struggle chain heal to another ally. So effectively, you are going to be getting 2 chain heals. Now, this sounds like a good perk, but this is honestly very, very rare to do. But some people still take it for that one maybe chance to save a life. So the first group healing in Divine's Embrace build we are going to talk about is Splash of Light. Splash of Light is honestly such a cool ability, okay? You are going to toss your hands up in the air and clap. This is going to heal you and your other 4 group members for roughly about 80% weapon damage. Now, this can get increased with the perk I will leave on the screen here. It is called Cleansing Splash of Light or something like that. But the whole gist of the perk is that if you cleanse a debuff with Splash of Light, you are going to heal the ally. Now, since we have 1 point available for this build, you can put it anywhere. You can put it in Intensify if you want to gain that extra little bit of healing. You can put it in Balance. Honestly, this is the one that I take. This works even if you swap weapons, which is very rare in a lot of the weapons in this game. Most of the passives in the weapon tree only work when you have that specific weapon out, but some passives actually bypass that and will work if you swap your weapons. The second Divine's Embrace group healing build is going to be the Divine's Embrace and Light's Embrace build, officially known as DELE. So here is the standard build that you take. Light's Embrace is another single target heal, so with this build you will have no AoE healing capabilities. Now, why do some people run this compared to the other AoE healing abilities? Well, specifically, this build is good for pocketing or keeping up a single person. If you are having struggles in your group keeping up a single person, then this build could be very, very good for you. When you heal a target with Light's Embrace, it will also give them 25 flat stamina, which is insanely busted. And since the cooldown is only 3 seconds with max refreshing, you can give someone 25 stamina and a large heal every 3 seconds. And lastly, for the last group healing Divine's Embrace build, we have the Divine's Embrace and Beacon build. So similar to the AoE healing build, this is going to be what you call your hybrid healer. The AoE healer build and the DE Beacon build pretty much play the exact same. You have to auto attack a lot. You have to time your sacreds with your beacons, but the only change here really is that you have a single target heal to keep a person up. The 3 meta offhands to run with the life staff is going to be the Rapier, the Flail and Shield, and the Void Gauntlet. The Rapier and the Void Gauntlet are going to be the main 2 options to choose from. The Rapier is the best weapon in the game for surviving. The Void Gauntlet offers massive healing output, and the Flail and Shield is in between. There is decent escape, but not the best, and the healing is there, but not compared to Void Gauntlet. So let's quickly talk about the Rapier builds here. The main 3 abilities that we want to take is going to be Evade, Riposte, and Fletch. So we want to take all of the passives down each tree here and get these 2 perks in the top of the blood tree, which is Refreshing Strikes and On Guard. Evade is going to act as a second dodge because it provides momentary invulnerability. Here is what Evade looks like. You can dodge pretty much everything in the game with a properly timed Evade. Riposte is your main counter attack that will stagger and stun enemies if it hits them. This also provides momentarily invulnerability until the riposte gets hit. Lastly, Fletch is going to be your main movement ability. It is a quick dash into whatever direction you choose. So these abilities are very strong, of course, but the passives is what really makes the Rapier that much stronger. So under riposte, we have the priority passive, which is going to reduce every single Rapier cooldown that you have by 20% when riposte lands the counter attack. Lasting consequence also increases the stun duration from 2 seconds to 2.5, which is just another big bonus. And quickly glossing over the rest of the Rapier passives, we have controlled breathing. You gain 3 stamina on hit. Red currents, critical strikes reduce all cooldowns by 5%. And one of my favorite passives in the entire game, swiftness. You gain 3% haste for 4 seconds on Rapier hits, and this can stack up to 5 times for a total of 15% haste. A small but valuable passive as well is going to be refreshing strikes. Reduce all Rapier cooldowns by 1% on any hits. As you can see here, the Rapier has so much built-in cooldown reduction, escape, and survival, and that is why it is the #1 paired weapon with the life staff. Now, the Rapier can be used by any healer, but the weapon we are talking about next, the Void Gauntlet, should only be used by AoE healers. The reasoning behind this is because the Rapier offers so much survival for group healers. Group healers tend to be playing a little bit more closer towards your team because you have to be in range to use Divine's Embrace. AoE healers have the luxury of standing super far away to get their heals out, so they can use the Void Gauntlet in a better and safe position. Now, the main 3 abilities we are going to be using with the Void Gauntlet is going to be Orb of Decay. This is going to be our main heal. Essence Rupture, which is going to be our second and side heal, and Scream, which is going to be our stagger and stun just in case we get jumped on. Most players in this game only think of Orb of Decay as a damage ability, but if you read the last portion of this ability here, it says at max range it transforms into a healing orb and returns healing friendlies for 20% weapon damage per second for 5 seconds. That is 100% weapon damage in healing over the course of 5 seconds. seconds. Apart from the heal over time, Orb of Decay also has a very large burst heal that heals for about 70% weapon damage. The way you are going to use this ability is by tossing it down to a clump of teammates and let it come back through them. As you see here, I just received a very large heal over time effect, but pairing this heal over time with the burst heal offers so much healing in return. As you see here, I get this big healing plus the heal over time, and this heals for 170% weapon damage over the course of 5 seconds. Now, with that being in mind, that is just insane by itself, but on top of this, our next healing ability is going to be Essence Rupture, and this is not like any direct heal over time or burst healing ability. This is more of a lifesteal type deal. So let me suck my HP here with the right click on the Void Gauntlet, and I'm going to toss Essence Rupture on this mob here. As you see here, my health is going to slowly go up as I find this and hit this mob. I'm healing for about 200 damage, and of course, if a DPS player is hitting a target with Essence Rupture on them, they are going to be getting healed for so much, especially since damage in this patch is ridiculous. On top of the lifesteal given by Essence Rupture has 2 perks called Invigorating Rupture and Overflowing Essence that give 15 flat stamina per hit when hitting a target afflicted with Essence Rupture, and an 80% weapon damage heal after the effect of Essence Rupture has gone. So Essence Rupture lasts about 10 seconds, and after that 10 seconds, Overflowing Essence is going to take over and heal everybody in a 4-meter radius for 80% weapon damage. The 2 mandatory perks here on the right side of the decay tree is going to be Radiant Efficiency. All Void Gauntlet abilities are going to be reduced by 25% mana while your mana is above 50%, and Mending Evasion, which is going to give you an 80% heal when you dodge with full mana. So we are full mana here, and we have 11.5k HP. We are going to dodge with the Void Gauntlet in hand, and we just got healed for 2.3k. Now, this is not a very big heal, but this is going to save your life if you get chased. Once again, remember, you have to be at full mana when dodging with the Void Gauntlet in your hand. So there is 2 conditionals here. You have to have the Void Gauntlet in your hand, and you have to have full mana. All of the perks on the left side don't really matter that much. The only thing you really need to take note of is Petrifying Scream. This is going to root enemies in 5 meters in front of you for 2 seconds. This has the potential of rooting a target for 3 seconds if you scream a person below half HP, but most of the time this really will not take it to effect because you are going to scream players who are jumping on top of you, and more than likely they are going to have full HP and full resources. The reason we take this is because we have to open up the Fortifying Echoes part of this ability. Gain Fortify for each enemy hit, increasing armor by 10% for 10 seconds per hit. Now, this is not much because we are in light armor. Fortify scales with our physical and elemental armor down below, and since I have about 900 physical and 800 elemental armor, we are only getting 10% of that, so that is about 90 physical armor and 80 elemental armor. Unfortunately, with the Flail, this is going to be the weakest pairing with the Life Staff. I'm really sad to say this, that this weapon has not really lived up to what the devs were hyping it to be. This is more of a tank and DPS weapon rather than a healing weapon. It does have healing properties such as flailing stability, deflecting frailty, and supportive blessing, but these are really just not perks that can really make this a true healing weapon. There is 2 Flail builds to run, but I'm only going to cover one of them in this video. If you want to check out the other Flail build, I'm going to leave a link in the description below, as well as in the top right of this video right now. So in this Flail build, we are going to be using Arcane Smite, Arcane Vortex, and Barrage. All 3 of these abilities are going to offer the most amount of escape, healing, and survivability. Arcane Smite is a really good source of utility. It has Weaken and also gives Lifesteal for your team, and that is going to be the Deflecting Frailty perk. The way Arcane Smite works is it's going to leap into the air and leave a purple zone of damage over time effect, and it also gives all allies that join this purple zone an active buff that weakens targets that hit them. And when the targets hit them with this buff on top of them, it is going to give that ally life steal. It's a little hard to put into words, but pretty much you're going to cast Arcane Smite. Your team is going to walk into this zone, and every time an enemy hits your ally that walked into that purple zone, they are going to get life steal. Arcane Vortex is probably the most overpowered ability in this game. It has many utility effects such as a 10% empower, but the most important utility effect is going to be a cleanse. The cooldown on this cleanse is only 16 seconds, which can be reduced with this perk called Weighted Superiority. Flailing Stability also gives a cleanse, but it also heals them and grants them crowd control immunity for up to 5 seconds, depending on how much focus you have. So yes, this ability is very overtuned, and it should be used off cooldown in clumps of allies. The way Arcane Vortex works is you are going to swing your flail in 4 motions, and at the end of the 4th motion, you are going to grant that cleanse immunity and the empower. For the the attributes, you have two options, and that is either going to be 150 Constitution with the Rest Focus or 200 Constitution with the Rest Focus. It is going to depend on your playstyle and if you want to be a little bit more tankier, but you do want at least 350 Focus. Now that about wraps it up for a general build overview for all of the live staff builds and offhands that you can run in Season 3. In the next coming days, there will be an in-depth guide for group healers and AoE so we can get down into the nitty-gritty. I do not want to put any of the in-depth tips here because the video will be 40 minutes long. So that about wraps it up. If you guys have any questions or want to see any more healing videos or guides, please let me know down in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and peace, baby.